I'm Joe Chili. You can listen to me mornings on the Big Weck. Joining us on the Big Weck's Buffalo on the Rise is Kelly Clem. Kelly, it's great to have you with you. We're old friends.
Yes.
I don't want to say old friends.
There you go. Not yet.
Even though my hair is starting to change. You look great. You are the VP of Clinical Education, correct?
Correct.
VP of Clinical Education. Boy, I can remember you way back, before you had such an impressive title.
That's it.
We're talking about Hospice Buffalo. And, there was something that was interesting that I found out on my own because my mom was under hospice care for the final year or so of her life. And I used to think, and this is a prejudicial thing for me, I used to think of hospice in a negative way. I thought it was end of life.
Sure.
And, when someone said, your mom could qualify, actually your mom could qualify for hospice care, and I was like, no. But then once we learned, because hospice actually educated us and educated my mom as to what hospice is all about. And it was like an epiphany for me.
Sure.
It was just a real awakening. Sure. So tell us the difference between hospice and palliative care.
Okay, so hospice is a Medicare benefit that was created back in the late 60s, early 70s. And it basically said that there are people who are in hospitals or are people who are struggling at home in their end of life journey, meaning that, the last phase of their terminal condition, be it cancer or congestive heart failure. And they need specialized help. They need people who understand the physical, emotional, and spiritual needs of the patient and the family. So Medicare created this program. Anybody can qualify for it. And we're basically there to make sure that all of the things that rear their ugly head when someone is diagnosed with a terminal condition and they're at the end, that's taken care of. Medicare defines that as a 6-month or less prognosis as long as the disease follows its normal course. As you said, your mother was in program for a year. Jimmy Carter just had his year anniversary and he's been in hospice for over a year. Doesn't necessarily mean that if you don't die in 6 months, we're going to discharge you. It means that we're going to still be able to take care of you as long as the disease is taking a downward trend. Palliative care, on the other hand, has nothing to do with end of life. Palliative care says if you have a condition or a disease and you have symptoms, you're short of breath, you're fatigued, you have pain, you're constipated, you're just not feeling yourself, that we can come in as palliative care professionals and manage those symptoms while you're still seeing your doctors, still getting curative therapy, still getting treatment. So both take care of the same issues, but one is for at the time of diagnosis of a chronic progressive disease, and the other is for the last stage of that chronic disease.
Now, the thing that's important, and I want people to realize here, it's not just about the patient. It's about the family, too. Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I always say, patients we can take care of, and we don't have any issues with that because symptom management is really our thing. But families, that's where we really do our best work because families are struggling with their inability to know how to help their loved one, their inability to know how do I manage this with my kids or my husband, if it's their mother that's, in program, how do I still go to work? How do I make sure she's getting everything? There's so much coordination, logistically that the family goes through, and then there's so much emotional investment. How do I know what to say to my mom now that she's not able to really, talk back to me anymore, not able to communicate? How do I tell my children that, that my mom is not doing well, if it's their grandma or grandpa? So we help with not only the logistical issues around a terminal condition or an end-of-life process, but also the emotional issues as well.
At what point does a family contact hospice? How would they know?
So what we say is if you're finding that you're constantly going back to the emergency room, or you're still having symptoms despite your doctor ordering medications and treatments, if you're finding that you're just not seeming to get ahead of the day and that you're wanting to really take control of your day, that you should be giving us a call. We're going to let you know if you're calling too early. We're going to say, you know what? I know you're feeling, but if we're going to talk to your doctor and we're going to say, I really think it's not time yet for hospice. I think they still have, a lot of good years left, a lot of good months left, but call us first. We'll get you set up with the right program. We'll get you set up with the people that can help you best. But I would say frequent emergency room visits, unresolved symptoms, and a sense of bewilderment in terms of how to navigate the healthcare system.
What's the biggest stumbling block, when people are trying to make a decision whether they should call you or not?
I think they're afraid of two things. One, that admitting that their loved one, or if they're calling for themselves, admitting that it's the end and thinking that they're going to die very shortly after, just because they admit it. You don't die just because you acknowledge and accept the realization that things are not going the way you thought they were. Okay. The other piece is that people are afraid, of morphine. They're afraid of Ativan. They're afraid of certain drugs that they think hospice uses to hasten death. And I've worked for hospice for almost 30 years, and I can tell you we don't do that. If anything, at the end of life, we're taking medications away oftentimes. But people have a stigma around the drugs that we use, and I can tell you that there's many patients in program who aren't on any narcotics at all. But we use the lowest doses possible to make sure that you're comfortable, but we don't hasten death in any way, shape, or form.
In our last 30 seconds or so, what do you want people to walk away from from the TV show today knowing?
I want them to know that you don't have to suffer through your disease without help, and that hospice and palliative care, it's one phone number. You just call us. We're going to get you on the right track. We're going to get you the kind of support that you need for all the issues that are going on in your life, and we're going to do it in a way that's going to make you feel, thank God I called.
Kelly Clem, thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you.
For more information and answers to your questions, contact Hospice Buffalo by calling 716-686-8077 or go to hospicebuffalo.com. Sponsorship and promotional considerations for the preceding segment was provided by the following.